Amara Chen's fingers trembled as she polished the crystal tumbler for the third time. 6 months of working in Dante Moretti's Chicago penthouse, and she still hadn't mastered the art of being invisible. The other staff made it look easy, eyes down, movements silent, presence erased. But Amara carried too much rage beneath her skin to disappear completely. More ice! Victor, one of Dante's lieutenants, snapped his fingers without looking up from his phone. Amara refilled his glass silently, her former paramedic's hands steady despite the humiliation burning in her chest. She'd traded her ambulance uniform for a maid's apron 2 years ago when her brother's medical bills had consumed everything. The hospital had fired her for borrowing medication she couldn't afford, morphine for Daniel's bone cancer that their insurance refused to cover. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Now, at 31, she scrubbed marble floors in a fortress disguised as a luxury high-rise, while her EMT certification gathered dust and her brother recovered in a facility she could finally afford. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd broken the law to save her brother, and now she worked for Chicago's most feared crime lord. Miss Chen. The voice made every person in the room freeze. Amara turned slowly, keeping her gaze respectfully lowered. She'd heard Dante Moretti speak perhaps 10 times in 6 months, never directly to her. His voice was deep, controlled, with a smoothness that made dangerous things sound reasonable. Yes, sir? Dante stood in the doorway of his private study, 6'4" of contained violence wrapped in a midnight blue suit that probably cost more than her yearly salary. His dark hair was immaculately styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass, and his eyes, gray like storm clouds, held an intelligence that missed nothing. A thin scar bisected his left eyebrow, the only imperfection on an otherwise devastating face. My son's nanny called in sick. You'll supervise Luca today. It wasn't a request. Nothing Dante Moretti said was ever a request. Of course, sir. Where should I? 4th floor, West Wing. Dante's gray eyes locked onto hers for the first time, and she felt the impact like a physical force. He's 6 years old. Don't let him out of your sight. The weight in his voice made something twist in her chest. I understand. Do you? He stepped closer, and she caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive that smelled like cedar and danger. Luca is everything to me. Everything. If anything happens to him... Nothing will happen to him, Amara interrupted, then immediately regretted it. You didn't interrupt Dante Moretti. But instead of anger, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or interest. Good, he said quietly. Then he was gone, leaving her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Amara found Luca in a bedroom that looked like a toy empire had exploded inside a palace. The 6-year-old sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by action figures, his small face pale and drawn. Dark circles shadowed eyes that were startlingly like his father's, gray and far too serious for a child. Hi there, she said softly, crouching to his level. I'm Amara. Your dad asked me to hang out with you today. Luca looked up with that unnerving Moretti intensity. You're the new cleaning lady. I am. And you're the boss's son. Everyone's scared of my dad. It wasn't a question, just a fact stated with the weary acceptance of a child who'd learned the world's harsh truths too early. Being powerful doesn't mean being scary, Amara said carefully. Sometimes it just means having the strength to protect the people you love. Luca studied her with an expression far too old for 6. Then he returned to his toys, lining up superheroes in careful formations. Amara settled onto the floor nearby, watching, observing. Her paramedic instincts hadn't dulled despite 2 years away from emergency medicine. And something about Luca's appearance nagged at her. The pallor, the lethargy, the way he moved slowly as if conserving energy for something more important than play. "Are you feeling okay, Luca?" she asked casually. "Any tummy aches? Headaches?" He shrugged without looking up. "The doctors say I'm fine. They come every week." Every week. That wasn't normal. Children didn't need weekly doctor visits unless something was wrong. "Do you get tired easily?" Another shrug. "I don't like running around much. Makes me dizzy sometimes." Amara's professional concern sharpened into alarm. She spent the rest of the day observing Luca carefully, how he played in short bursts before needing to rest, how his breathing seemed slightly labored after minimal exertion, how he barely touched his lunch despite the chef's elaborate chicken tenders and fries. That evening, as she prepared to return to the staff quarters, Dante appeared in the hallway outside Luca's room. His jacket was off, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and marked with tattoos she couldn't quite make out. He looked exhausted in a way expensive suits couldn't hide. "How was he?" The question came out rough, almost desperate. Amara hesitated. She was just the maid. She had no right to question the medical care provided by what were undoubtedly the best doctors money could buy. But the paramedic in her couldn't stay silent. "Mr. Moretti, I used to be—" "Used to be what?" His attention sharpened on her like a laser. Amara felt pinned by those gray eyes. "I was a paramedic. Before. And Luca shows signs." "A paramedic?" Dante's expression shifted. "Why aren't you anymore?" "That's not important. What's important is that Luca—" "Everything about you is important if you're spending time with my son." He stepped closer, eliminating the professional distance between them. "Why did you leave emergency medicine?" The question felt like an interrogation, but his tone wasn't harsh. It was curious, genuinely interested. "I needed money fast," Amara said, lifting her chin. "My brother had cancer. I made some choices I'm not proud of. Got caught. Lost my certification." She met his eyes. "I did what I had to do to keep him alive." Something flickered across Dante's face. Respect, maybe. Or recognition of a kindred spirit willing to break rules for family. "What were you going to say about Luca? Has he been tested for any metabolic disorders?" His symptoms, the fatigue, the pallor, the dizziness, they could indicate something systemic that standard blood panels might miss. "He's been tested for everything." Dante's jaw tightened. 4 different specialists, all the best money can buy. They found nothing conclusive. "Sometimes the rarest conditions hide in plain sight," Amara pressed carefully. "Especially in children. The symptoms can be subtle, easy to dismiss as normal childhood fatigue or—" "I appreciate your concern, Miss Chen." His tone had gone cold, dismissive. The wall was back up, shutting down the conversation. "But my son receives the finest medical care available." Amara knew when to retreat. She nodded and turned to leave. "Miss Chen." She looked back. Dante's expression remained impassive, but something in his eyes betrayed him. "You'll continue watching Luca when his nanny is unavailable. He seemed comfortable with you. That doesn't happen often." The admission cost him something. She could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the way his hands flexed at his sides. "Of course, Mr. Moretti." "Dante." The correction surprised them both. "When it's about Luca, call me Dante." 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm that Amara couldn't quite name. She spent her days split between household duties and supervising Luca during his nanny's increasingly frequent absences that Amara suspected were orchestrated by Dante himself. She learned that Luca loved dinosaurs more than anything, hated vegetables with a passion that bordered on religious conviction, and had memorized every line of his favorite Marvel movies. She also learned that he experienced frequent dizzy spells, had developed an unusual craving for salty foods, and sometimes his hands shook when he was tired. Every symptom screamed something metabolic to her trained mind, but Dante's doctors remained confident in their diagnosis of general fatigue and mild nutritional deficiencies. She kept her concerns to herself, watching and waiting and praying she was wrong. The crisis came on a Thursday afternoon. Amara was in Luca's room, helping him build an elaborate Lego castle, when she noticed his hands trembling worse than usual. "Luca, do you feel okay?" "Tired," he mumbled. His face had gone gray. "Really tired, Amara." She pressed her hand to his forehead. His skin was cool and clammy, not feverish, but wrong. Very wrong. "Let's get you to bed, sweetheart." She'd barely gotten him horizontal when his eyes rolled back, and his small body went rigid. Seizure. Her training kicked in immediately. She turned him on his side, checked his airway, started timing the episode while simultaneously hitting the emergency button on the wall panel. "I need the medical team in Luca's room now," she shouted into the intercom. "He's seizing. 6-year-old male, approximately 30 seconds into tonic-clonic seizure, no fever present. Get Dante Moretti up here immediately." The seizure lasted 43 seconds, an eternity when you were watching a child convulse. When it finally stopped, Luca didn't wake up. His breathing was shallow, his pulse weak and rapid. His lips had a bluish tint. The medical team burst through the door. 2 doctors in expensive suits carrying equipment that looked more appropriate for a private clinic than emergency response. Behind them came Dante, his usual composure shattered, his face a mask of barely controlled terror. "What happened?" His voice was lethal. "What's wrong with my son?" "He seized," Amara said, her hands automatically checking Luca's pulse again, his breathing, his color. 43 seconds. He's post-ictal now, but his vitals are concerning. Pulse is 140. Respiration shallow. He's hypotensive. "We need to transport him," one of the doctors said, already preparing an IV. "Get him to Northwestern Memorial." "No." Amara's voice cut through the chaos. "We don't have time." Every head turned to stare at her. "Who the hell are you?" the lead physician demanded. "Someone who knows what's killing him." Amara moved closer to Luca, her training overriding every instinct for self-preservation. "He's in metabolic crisis. Look at his skin, the hyperpigmentation on his knuckles, the darkening around his gums, the salt cravings, the chronic fatigue, the hypotension. This is an Addisonian crisis." "Addison's disease was ruled out months ago," the doctor snapped. His cortisol levels were normal. "Were they tested during a stress event or at baseline?" Amara shot back. "Addison's can show normal levels until the body is under significant stress. Then the adrenal glands can't respond and the patient crashes. He needs hydrocortisone now. 100 milligrams IV push, or he's going to die in the next 10 minutes. This is absurd. Mr. Moretti, your maid is not qualified to—" "Can you save my son?" Dante's voice was deadly quiet. His eyes locked onto Amara's with an intensity that would have terrified her if she wasn't so focused on Luca. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "But I need them to listen to me. Right now." Time seemed to suspend. Then Dante turned to his doctors with an expression that could have frozen hell itself. "Do exactly what she says. Now." The physicians looked ready to argue, but something in Dante's face made them think better of it. One of them prepared the hydrocortisone injection with shaking hands, while Amara positioned Luca's arm for IV access. "He'll also need saline fluids to stabilize his blood pressure," she instructed, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "And dextrose. His blood sugar is probably bottoming out. We need to monitor his vitals every 2 minutes." She guided them through each step, her hands moving with the confidence of someone who'd done this dozens of times in ambulances and emergency rooms. The hydrocortisone entered Luca's system. Within 3 minutes, his color began to improve slightly. Within 7, His breathing steadied. Within 10, his eyelids fluttered. The room exhaled collectively. Dante moved to his son's bedside, his hand gentle on Luca's small forehead. The transformation from ruthless crime lord to terrified father was complete, and Amara felt something crack open in her chest at the sight. "Papa?" Luca's voice was weak but present. "I'm here, Piccolo." Dante's voice broke. "I'm right here." Amara started to step back, to give them privacy, but Dante's hand shot out and caught her wrist. "Stay." It wasn't a command this time, it was a plea. "Please stay until we're sure he's stable." She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The doctors ran confirmatory tests over the next 6 hours. Every result came back positive for primary adrenal insufficiency, Addison's disease. The specialists who'd missed it issued formal apologies that meant nothing compared to the fact that they'd nearly let a 6-year-old die. Dante said nothing to them. He simply had them replaced by morning. Amara stayed through the night, monitoring Luca's vitals, adjusting his IV fluids, explaining to Dante what each medication did and why it was necessary. She explained that Luca would need daily hydrocortisone for the rest of his life, that stress situations would require increased doses, that he could live a completely normal life with proper management. As dawn broke through the windows, Luca finally fell into a peaceful sleep. Dante hadn't left his son's side, one hand holding Luca's, his eyes never leaving the boy's face. "You saved his life," he said quietly. "The best doctors in Chicago. And you're the one who saw what they missed." I just recognized the pattern. Anyone with emergency medicine training would have. No. Dante finally looked at her, and the raw emotion in his eyes nearly destroyed her. "You fought for him when you had no reason to. You risked your job, maybe worse, to speak up. You saved my son's life, Amara. There's no downplaying that. He's a good kid," she said softly. "He deserves to grow up. To have his father. His father who almost let him die because I was too arrogant to listen to a maid." The self-loathing in his voice was visceral. "You listened when it mattered most." Amara moved closer. "You trusted me when you had every reason not to. That takes its own kind of courage." Dante studied her face like he was seeing her for the first time. "How did you end up cleaning houses? Someone with your skills? Your instincts? You should be running emergency rooms, not scrubbing them." "I told you. I made mistakes. Got caught stealing medications for my brother. Lost my certification. Got blacklisted from healthcare. No hospital would touch me after that." "What kind of cancer did your brother have?" The question surprised her. "Osteosarcoma. Bone cancer. He was 17. The pain was so bad he couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The insurance company kept denying his morphine, saying it wasn't medically necessary, that he should try over-the-counter options first." Her voice hardened. "So I took what he needed from the ambulance supply. Got caught on my 3rd time." "Where is he now?" "In remission. Living in Oregon with his girlfriend, finishing college. He doesn't know how I afforded the facility that saved his life. I told him I got a better-paying job." She smiled without humor. "Which I guess is technically true. You sacrificed your career for him." "I'd do it again without hesitation. Family is everything." Something shifted in Dante's expression. "Yes," he said quietly. "It is." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lucas sleep. The intimacy of the moment, just the three of them in the quiet pre-dawn, felt dangerously domestic. Amara knew she should leave, should rebuild the professional boundaries that had been obliterated over the past 12 hours. But she didn't move. Neither did Dante. "Stay with us," he said finally. "Not as a maid, as Luca's medical supervisor, his guardian, I guess. Someone who knows how to keep him alive. I'm not a nurse. I can't legally. I don't care about legal. I care about capable. You proved you're capable." His gray eyes held hers. Name your price. I don't want your money. Everyone wants money. Then I'm not everyone. Amara straightened. If I do this, and that's a big if, it's because Luca needs someone who understands his condition. Someone who can recognize when he's in trouble. It's not about money or gratitude or whatever else you're thinking. Dante's lips curved into something that might have been a smile on anyone else. You continue to surprise me, Amara Chen. Is that a yes? That's a yes. You'll move into the family wing, have access to Luca 24/7, full authority over his medical care, salary triple what you're making now, plus benefits. He paused. And your brother's medical bills, whatever's left, consider them paid. I told you I don't want. It's not for you. It's for me. Dante's voice went soft. Because knowing that you're not worried about money means you can focus entirely on keeping my son alive, and that's worth more than you could possibly imagine. Amara wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some semblance of independence, but she thought about Daniel's remaining debt, about the weight she'd been carrying for 2 years, about the possibility of finally being able to breathe. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Luca stirred in his sleep, his small hand reaching out. Without thinking, Amara took it. His fingers curled around hers with surprising strength. When she looked up, Dante was watching them with an expression that made her heart skip. Not gratitude, not relief. Something deeper, something more dangerous, something that looked almost like hope. The move from staff quarters to the family wing happened so quickly that Amara barely had time to process it. Within 48 hours of saving Luca's life, she found herself in a suite that was larger than her entire childhood apartment. Bedroom, sitting room, private bathroom, with a soaking tub that could fit 3 people. This is too much, she protested when Mrs. Castellano, the head housekeeper, showed her the space. The older woman smiled knowingly. Mr. Moretti doesn't do anything halfway. You saved his son. In this house, that makes you family. Family. The word echoed strangely in Amara's mind as she unpacked her meager belongings. She'd been alone for so long, ever since Daniel left for college, since their parents died in the apartment fire that had started this whole nightmare of debt and desperation. The idea of belonging somewhere again was both terrifying and intoxicating. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Luca stood in the doorway, clutching a stuffed brachiosaurus that was nearly as big as he was. Papa said you're staying now, in the real part of the house. That's right. Amara knelt to his level. Is that okay with you? Are you going to make sure I don't get sick again? The vulnerability in his gray eyes, so like his father's, made her chest tight. I'm going to do everything I can to keep you healthy and safe, that's a promise. Luca considered this, then held out the dinosaur. This is Reginald. He helps when I'm scared. You can borrow him if you get scared too. Amara's eyes burned. Thank you, Luca. That's very brave of you. Papa says being brave means being scared but doing it anyway. He paused. Are you scared? A little, she admitted. This is all very new to me. Me too. But I like you being here. You make Papa smile sometimes. He doesn't smile much since Mama died. Before Amara could respond to that bombshell, Dante's voice came from the hallway. Luca, let Amara finish unpacking. Come on, time for your medication. The boy scampered off, leaving Amara alone with questions she had no right to ask. She'd learned from the other staff that Luca's mother had died 3 years ago. Complications from a riding accident, they said. Dante never spoke about her, never acknowledged her existence except in the way grief haunted the edges of his eyes. That evening, Amara joined Dante and Luca for dinner. It felt surreal, sitting at the massive dining table that could seat 20, just the 3 of them at one end. Dante had changed into dark jeans and a black Henley, looking less like a crime lord and more like a devastatingly handsome, single father. It was somehow more dangerous than the suits. Tell Amara about your dinosaur project, Dante prompted Luca, cutting his son's chicken into smaller pieces with practiced ease. Luca launched into an enthusiastic explanation of the diorama he was building for school, a late Cretaceous landscape complete with T-Rex, Triceratops, and his beloved Brachiosaurus. Amara listened, asked questions, and tried not to stare at the way Dante's face softened when he looked at his son. "What about you?" Dante asked suddenly. "Any hidden passions besides emergency medicine?" "I used to paint," Amara said. "Watercolors mostly, landscapes, cityscapes, nothing fancy." "Used to. Supplies are expensive. After Daniel got sick, creative pursuits kind of fell by the wayside." Something flickered across Dante's face. "There's an art studio on the 5th floor. Full supplies. Oils, acrylics, watercolors, everything. It was my wife's. No one's touched it in 3 years." He met her eyes. "You're welcome to use it." The offer felt weighted with meaning she didn't fully understand. "I couldn't." She would have wanted someone to use it. She hated waste. His voice was carefully neutral, but Amara could hear the pain underneath. "Consider it part of your compensation." After dinner, while Luca watched a movie in the den, Dante asked Amara to join him in his study. The room was all dark wood and leather, bookshelves lining the walls, a fireplace crackling softly. It smelled like cedar and old paper and the cologne she was beginning to associate with safety. "We need to discuss protocols," Dante said, pouring 2 glasses of wine without asking if she wanted one. "For Luca's care." "Of course." Amara accepted the glass, settling into the chair across from his desk. His new endocrinologist sent over the treatment plan: daily hydrocortisone, stress dosing guidelines, emergency protocols. "I need you to review it. Tell me if there are gaps." They spent the next hour going through medical documents, Amara explaining the nuances of adrenal crisis prevention, what symptoms to watch for, how to adjust medications during illness or injury. Dante listened intently, asking intelligent questions, taking notes in precise handwriting. "You're a good father," Amara said when they finished. "A lot of parents would just hand this off to the medical staff and call it done." "Luca is all I have left." Dante's voice was rough. "I can't afford to be anything less than obsessive about his well-being." "Can I ask what happened to his mother?" "You don't have to answer, but Luca mentioned Gabriella." Dante's jaw tightened. "Her name was Gabriella. We met when I was 25. She was 23. She was a journalist investigating organized crime in Chicago. She was supposed to expose me, destroy me." He smiled without humor. "Instead, she fell in love with me. Or maybe I fell first. It's hard to remember now." Amara stayed quiet, letting him speak at his own pace. "She died in a riding accident at our estate in the countryside. The horse spooked. Threw her. She broke her neck in the fall." He drained his wine. "The official story. The truth is more complicated." "You don't have to." "The horse was drugged. Someone wanted to send me a message, to hurt me through her. They succeeded." His gray eyes met hers, full of anguish. "I never found out who. Never got my revenge. Just had to live with the knowledge that loving me killed her." "That's not your fault." "Isn't it?" Dante stood, crossing to the window overlooking the Chicago skyline. "Everyone close to me becomes a target. It's why I keep people at a distance, why I never let anyone into this part of my life." He turned back to her. "Until now. Until you." The air between them felt charged, dangerous. "Dante, you should know what you're walking into, Amara. The risk. Being part of Luca's life. Being in this house. It makes you visible. It makes you vulnerable to my enemies. And I have more enemies than you could possibly imagine. I'm not afraid. You should be." He moved closer, and she could smell his cologne again, could see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes. I'm trying to warn you, trying to give you an out before it's too late. I made a promise to Luca. I don't break promises. Even if keeping it might get you killed? Amara stood, meeting his gaze directly. I've spent 2 years in survival mode, Dante, working 3 jobs, watching my brother suffer, stealing medicine because the legal system failed us. I'm already living in a kind of danger. At least here, I'm doing something that matters. You matter. The words came out fierce, almost angry. Your life matters, Amara. Don't throw it away for what? For your son? For keeping a child alive? She stepped closer, eliminating the distance between them. That's not throwing my life away. That's the first time in years I've felt like my life means something. Dante's hand came up to cup her cheek, his touch surprisingly gentle for someone capable of such violence. You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both, she whispered. He leaned closer, and for a breathless moment Amara thought he might kiss her. Wanted him to kiss her. But then his phone buzzed urgently and he stepped back. The moment shattered. I need to take this. His voice was back to business. We'll continue this conversation later. But as he turned away, Amara saw his hands trembling slightly. She affected him. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying. The next 3 weeks fell into a rhythm that felt dangerously domestic. Amara woke each morning in her luxurious suite, checked on Luca, supervised his morning medications, then spent the day managing his care, tutoring him in subjects he struggled with, and exploring the massive penthouse that was slowly becoming familiar. She discovered the art studio on the 5th floor, a sun-drenched space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Gabriella's paintings still hung on the walls, abstract pieces full of color and emotion that made Amara's chest ache. The woman had been talented, beautiful, if the photographs scattered throughout the penthouse were any indication. Dark hair, warm brown eyes, a smile that could light up a room. Amara felt like a ghost inhabiting a dead woman's life. But slowly, she began to paint again. Watercolor cityscapes at first, then more ambitious pieces. Luca would join her sometimes, finger painting with the enthusiasm of a 6-year-old, while Amara worked on her canvases. Those afternoons felt stolen from some alternate universe where she belonged in places like this. Dante worked long hours, disappearing into meetings in the secure conference room on the 3rd floor, taking calls in Italian and what sounded like Russian. Amara tried not to think about what he actually did for a living. Tried not to see the way his men looked at him with a mixture of fear and absolute loyalty. Tried not to notice the gun he always carried in a shoulder holster beneath his suits, but she couldn't ignore the way he looked at her. It happened in small moments. When she was reading to Luca before bed, and Dante would appear in the doorway, watching with an expression she couldn't name. When they passed in the hallway, and his eyes would track her movement like she was the only thing in the world worth seeing. When they ate dinner together, and his attention never wavered from her face. The tension built until Amara felt like she might shatter from it. The breaking point came on a Friday evening. Luca was at a sleepover with the son of one of Dante's most trusted associates, a rare treat that had required 3 security guards and enough safety protocols to plan a presidential visit. For the first time since Amara moved into the family wing, she and Dante were alone in the penthouse. She found him in his study, tie loosened, drink in hand, staring at nothing. "You look like you could use company," she said from the doorway. Or solitude, hard to tell which. But he gestured to the chair across from him, and she settled into it. "Rough day?" "Complicated day, there's a difference." He studied her over the rim of his glass. "How's Luca been? Any concerning symptoms?" "Nothing. He's responding beautifully to the medication. Energy levels are up, color is good, no dizzy spells." She smiled. "He's a normal, healthy 6-year-old terror now." "Terror? Dante's lips quirked. He convinced Marcus, the guard watching him tonight, to let him have 3 desserts. I got a text asking if it would interfere with his cortisol levels. Dante laughed, a real laugh that transformed his entire face. That's my son, testing boundaries wherever he finds them. Wonder where he gets that from, Amara teased. Definitely his mother. I'm a model of restraint and following rules, said the crime lord. The words hung in the air. Amara immediately regretted them, but Dante didn't look offended. Anything? He looked relieved. You've been very careful not to ask what I actually do, he observed. It's not my business. You live in my home, care for my son. It's absolutely your business. He set down his glass. I run the Moretti organization. We control most of the shipping and distribution in Chicago and the surrounding states. Some of what we move is legal. Much of it isn't. Drugs? She had to ask. No, never drugs. That's a hard line for me. His expression darkened. My father built this organization on drug trafficking. I watched it destroy families, communities. When I took over 8 years ago, I shifted everything. Now we move luxury goods, art, jewelry, antiquities. Things that hurt no one but insurance companies and pompous collectors. That's still illegal. It is. I'm not claiming moral high ground, Amara. Just explaining that I have limits, lines I won't cross. He leaned forward. No drugs, no weapons to conflict zones, no human trafficking. Anyone in my organization who violates those rules disappears, permanently. The casual way he said it should have terrified her. Instead, Amara found herself asking, what about violence? Murder? I've killed people. Yes. He didn't flinch from her gaze. Men who threatened my family, my organization, men who deserved it, though I suppose everyone thinks their violence is justified. He paused. Does that frighten you? It should, Amara admitted. But honestly, after watching the insurance companies let my brother suffer, after seeing how the system protects the powerful and crushes everyone else, I'm not sure I believe in clear-cut morality anymore. That's a dangerous philosophy. So is falling for a man who just admitted to murder. The words escaped before she could stop them. Dante went absolutely still. What did you say? Amara's heart hammered. I shouldn't have. Say it again. He stood, crossing to her chair, his eyes intense. Tell me what you just said. I'm falling for you. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I know it's insane. I know all the reasons it's a terrible idea. But I can't stop thinking about you, Dante. I can't stop wanting. He kissed her. It was nothing like the gentle, hesitant first kisses in movies. This was desperate, hungry. 3 weeks of tension exploding into a single point of contact. His hands tangled in her hair while hers fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted like whiskey and danger and something uniquely him that made her head spin. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. I've been trying so hard not to want you, he breathed, trying to keep distance, maintain boundaries. But you make it impossible, Amara. The way you are with Luca, the way you challenged me, saved him, fit into our lives like you were always meant to be here. I can't resist you anymore. Then don't, she whispered. Stop resisting. He kissed her again, slower this time, but no, less intense. His hand skimmed down her sides, careful and reverent, like she was something precious. When his lips moved to her neck, Amara's knees buckled. Dante caught her easily, lifting her onto his desk. The paperwork scattered, but neither of them cared. She wrapped her legs around his waist, pulling him closer, and he groaned against her mouth. We should stop, he said, even as his hands slid under her shirt. We should think about this. Be rational. I don't want rational. Amara pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I want you, Dante. I want this. Stop giving me reasons to hesitate when all I want is to be with you. Something in his expression cracked open. If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. You understand that? You'll be mine, Amara. And I protect what's mine with everything I have. Promise? He kissed her again in answer, and this time when his hands moved under her shirt she didn't stop him. Didn't want to stop him. Wanted everything he was offering and more. They made it to the leather couch in his study. Clothes were shed with urgent efficiency, and when Dante finally touched her, really touched her, Amara felt like she was burning alive in the best possible way. Beautiful, he murmured against her skin. So damn beautiful. They came together with the desperation of two people who'd been alone too long, who'd found something unexpected in the darkness. It was fast and intense, and over far too quickly. Afterward, they lay tangled together on the couch, skin cooling in the air conditioning, hearts still racing. Dante pulled a throw blanket over them and held her close, his fingers tracing abstract patterns on her shoulder. I love you, he said quietly. I know it's too soon. I know it's probably the worst timing imaginable. But I love you, Amara Chen. I think I started falling the moment you tried to tell me about Luca's symptoms and refused to back down when I dismissed you. Amara's eyes burned. I love you too. God help me. I love you too. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, pretending the world outside didn't exist. But the world had other plans. Amara woke the next morning to chaos. She was in Dante's bedroom. They'd moved there sometime around 3 a.m., too exhausted to care about propriety. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, and for a blissful moment, everything felt perfect. Then she heard the shouting. Dante was already awake, pulling on pants with military efficiency, his phone pressed to his ear. When? His voice was lethal. How many? Is Luca secure? Amara's blood turned to ice. What's happening? Stay here. He grabbed his gun from the nightstand. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me or Marco. Dante, what? Someone breached the building security, ground floor. They're coming up. His eyes met hers, full of grim determination. This is what I warned you about, the danger of being in my world. Then he was gone, leaving Amara alone in his bedroom with her heart in her throat and the sound of gunfire echoing from somewhere below. Amara's hands shook as she pulled on Dante's shirt and her jeans from the night before. The gunfire had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that was somehow worse. She pressed her ear to the door, hearing nothing but her own thundering heartbeat. Every instinct screamed at her to check on Luca. But Dante had said he was secure. Marco was one of his best men, former special forces, loyal to a fault. Luca would be safe in the panic room on the 4th floor, unless something had gone wrong. The thought propelled her into action. She unlocked the door and slipped into the hallway, moving as quietly as her paramedic training had taught her. Stay low, stay silent, assess before acting. The penthouse felt wrong, too quiet. She made it to the main staircase when she heard voices below. Whole operation is compromised. Salvatore knows about the shipment. How? That was Dante, his voice ice cold. Someone talked. We have a leak. Amara froze. She shouldn't be hearing this, but she couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but listen. Find them. Dante's words were a death sentence. I don't care how long it takes. Find the leak and bring them to me. Alive. And the breach? The men who got in? Dead or captured? 3 dead, 2 captured. They were asking about the woman, the one who saved your son. The world tilted. Amara gripped the railing to keep from falling. They were asking about Amara? Dante's voice went deadly quiet. By name, boss. They knew who she was. where she sleeps, what she means to you. A long silence. Then, get her out. Now. And Luca. Full evacuation protocol. Amara didn't wait to hear more. She ran to Luca's panic room, her medical training forgotten in the surge of maternal panic. She found Marco standing guard, weapon drawn, looking relieved when he saw her. Miss Chen, thank God, Mr. Moretti's been trying to reach you. Is Luca okay? Safe inside, but we need to move. There's a car in the underground garage, armored, emergency supplies. We're taking you both to the safe house. What about Dante? Marco's expression was grim. He stays. He has business to finish. The panic room door opened and Luca emerged, his small face pale but surprisingly calm. Amara, Papa said there were bad men, but Marco kept me safe. She dropped to her knees and pulled him into a fierce hug. You're so brave, sweetheart. We're going to go on a little trip, okay? Like an adventure. Is Papa coming? He'll meet us later. He has to take care of some things first. Luca's gray eyes, so like his father's, studied her with unnerving perception. The bad men want to hurt him, don't they? Because he's powerful and they're scared of him. Something like that. They made it to the underground garage without incident. The armored SUV was massive, windows tinted black, interior pristine. 2 more guards waited. Elena and Santos, both wearing tactical gear and carrying enough weapons to stage a small war. Where's Dante? Amara demanded. Handling the situation, Elena said, her tone brooking no argument. Our job is to get you two to safety. His job is to make sure nobody follows. The drive to the safe house took 40 minutes, winding through Chicago's streets with a precision that suggested extensive planning. Luca fell asleep against Amara's side, exhausted from the adrenaline. She held him close and tried not to think about Dante facing whoever had breached his home. The safe house was a nondescript brownstone in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place you'd pass 1,000 times without noticing. Inside, it was transformed into a fortress. Security cameras, reinforced doors, weapons cache in the basement, and supplies for an extended stay. How long do we wait here? Amara asked, once Luca was settled in one of the bedrooms upstairs. Until Mr. Moretti says it's safe to return, Marco replied. Could be hours. Could be days. It was 3 days. 3 days of teaching Luca his schoolwork, of playing endless games of chess and reading every book in the safe house library twice. 3 days of encrypted phone calls with Dante, brief, careful conversations where he assured her they were both safe, but never gave details about what he was doing. 3 days of slowly losing her mind with worry. On the 4th morning, Dante finally arrived. He looked like hell, exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes and a fresh bruise along his jaw. But he was alive, whole. The moment Amara saw him, something in her chest unlocked. Papa! Luca launched himself at Dante, who caught him easily, holding his son like he'd never let go. Hey, Piccolo, you've been good for Amara. The best. We did math and science, and I beat Marco at chess 3 times. 3 times? That's my boy. Dante met Amara's eyes over Luca's head, and the emotion there nearly destroyed her. After Luca went to play with the guard dogs in the backyard, under heavy supervision, Dante pulled Amara into one of the safe house's secured rooms. Tell me what happened, she demanded. The attack was orchestrated by Salvatore Russo. He's been trying to muscle into my territory for months. Someone in my organization fed him information about my routines, my security, about you. His jaw tightened. They told him you were my weakness, that hurting you would break me. Did you find the leak? Yes. His tone made it clear that person no longer posed a problem. It was one of my accountants. Russo offered him money, promised him protection. He believed it. And Russo? Being dealt with as we speak. Dante cupped her face, his touch achingly gentle. I'm sorry, Amara. I promised to protect you, and instead I put you in danger. You warned me this might happen. I chose to stay anyway. You shouldn't have to make that choice. You shouldn't have to live in fear because of me. Then what are you saying? Her heart started to race. That this was a mistake? That we should... I'm saying you deserve better. His voice broke. You deserve a normal life. Safety. A future that doesn't involve armed guards and safe houses and men trying to kill you to hurt me. Amara pulled back, anger flaring. Don't do this. Don't you dare make this decision for me. I'm trying to protect you. By pushing me away? By deciding what I can and can't handle? She stepped closer, poking his chest. I'm not some delicate flower, Dante. I survived foster care, medical school, stealing drugs to save my brother, losing everything and rebuilding from nothing. I can survive your world too, if you'll let me. What if something happens to you? What if I can't protect you and... His composure cracked. I can't lose someone else I love, Amara. I can't bury another person who died because of me. Then don't push me away while I'm still alive. She took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. I love you. I love Luca. This is my choice, Dante. Mine, not yours. I'm choosing to stay. I'm choosing this life, this danger, this beautiful, terrifying thing we're building. You don't get to take that choice away from me. You could die. I could die crossing the street. I could die from cancer or a car accident or a million other things. But I'd rather die having lived, having loved you, having been part of Luca's life, than spend the rest of my existence safe and alone and empty. Dante stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I don't deserve you, he whispered into her hair. Probably not, but you've got me anyway. They stood like that for a long moment, two broken people clinging to each other in the wreckage. Then Dante pulled back, his expression shifting into something that looked almost like hope. Marry me. Amara blinked. What? Marry me, Amara Chen. Not someday. Not when things are safer. They'll never be completely safe. Marry me now. Today. Tomorrow. Whenever you'll have me. His gray eyes blazed with intensity. I want you to be Luca's mother legally, not just in practice. I want the world to know you're mine and I'm yours. I want to wake up every morning for the rest of my life knowing you chose me, despite everything. You're insane. Probably. Is that a yes? Amara laughed through sudden tears. Yes, you impossible man. Yes, I'll marry you. He kissed her then, and it felt like a promise. Like a beginning instead of an ending. The wedding happened 3 weeks later in the private chapel at Dante's countryside estate, the same property where Gabriella had died. Amara had worried it might feel wrong, like she was trying to replace a ghost. But Father Dominic, the elderly priest who'd known Dante since childhood, assured her otherwise. Gabriella would have loved you, he said kindly. She always told Dante he needed someone who wouldn't let him brood. Someone who'd challenge him, match him, stand beside him rather than behind him. You're exactly what she would have wanted for him and Luca. The ceremony was small, just Marco, Elena, Santos, a handful of Dante's most trusted associates, and Daniel, who flew in from Oregon with tears streaming down his face. You're marrying a mob boss, her brother whispered as they walked down the makeshift aisle. This is insane. Completely, Amara agreed. But he's my mob boss. And he makes you happy? She looked at Dante waiting at the altar, devastating in a charcoal suit, his eyes locked on her like she was the only thing in the world worth seeing. Luca stood beside him in a miniature version of his father's outfit, grinning so wide his face might split. Happier than I've ever been, she said truthfully. Daniel squeezed her hand. Then that's all that matters. The ceremony was brief, but beautiful. When Father Dominic pronounced them husband and wife, Dante kissed her with a gentleness that made her forget they were surrounded by armed guards, made her forget about danger and violence and complicated pasts, made her believe, just for a moment, that they could have a normal future. "I now present Mr. and Mrs. Moretti," Father Dominic announced. Luca cheered loudly. "Does this mean I can call Amara Mom?" Dante looked at her, question in his eyes. Amara knelt to Luca's level, taking his small hands. "Only if you want to, sweetheart. I would be honored to be your mom. But you had a mother who loved you very much, and I'm not trying to replace her." "Can I have two moms?" Luca asked seriously. "One in heaven and one here?" Amara's eyes burned. "Yes, baby. You can have two moms, and I promise I'll love you as much as she did." "Okay." Luca hugged her fiercely. "I love you, Mom." Over his head, Dante mouthed, "Thank you." The reception was held in the estate's garden, under string lights and stars. They danced. Amara and Dante's first dance as husband and wife, then Luca cutting in and insisting on a turn. They ate food prepared by Chicago's best chefs. They laughed and celebrated and pretended, just for one night, that they were a normal family. But reality came crashing back the next morning. Amara woke to find Dante's side of the bed empty. She found him in his study, staring at a photograph with an expression of absolute devastation. "Dante, what's wrong?" He looked up, and the anguish in his eyes made her stomach drop. "Russo escaped. During transport to prison. My contacts say he's left the country, but he sent this before he went." Dante held out the photograph. It showed Amara and Luca in the safe house garden, taken through a telephoto lens. Someone had drawn a red X over both their faces. "It's a threat," Dante said flatly. "He's telling me he can reach them anytime he wants, that nowhere is safe." "Then we deal with it." Amara moved to him, taking his hands. "Together. Like we promised." "This isn't some abstract danger anymore. Amara, this is a direct threat to you and my son. To our family." His voice broke on the last word. "Maybe you should take Luca and disappear. New identities, new lives." "I have resources." "No." She said it firmly. "We're not running. We're not letting this bastard dictate our lives. He could kill you. Kill Luca. Or we could stand our ground and fight back." Amara's mind raced, her paramedic training kicking in. Assess, plan, act. You have resources, connections, power. Use them. Find Russo and end this threat permanently. That could take months, years. Then we live carefully for months or years. We adjust, adapt, protect ourselves. But we don't run, and we don't give up what we've built. She cupped his face. "I didn't marry you to become a widow or a single mother in witness protection. I married you to be your partner, your equal. Let me be that, Dante. Let me stand with you." Something shifted in his expression. "You really mean that?" "Every word." He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the world. "I love you. God, I love you so much it terrifies me." "Good. Terror means you care." She pulled back to meet his eyes. "Now let's figure out how to keep our family safe." The next 6 months were a masterclass in adaptation. Dante restructured his entire security operation. The penthouse was transformed into a fortress with biometric locks, bulletproof windows, and enough surveillance to catch a ghost. Luca was homeschooled by a rotation of vetted tutors, his socialization limited to supervised playdates with children of trusted associates. Amara learned to live with a constant security detail. Elena became her shadow, professional, efficient, and surprisingly good company. She also learned to shoot, spending hours at Dante's private range until she could hit center mass at 20 yards. "You're a natural," Dante observed one afternoon, watching her empty an entire magazine into the target. "Steady hands. Comes with the paramedic training." She reloaded smoothly. Though I hope I never have to use this for real. If you do, don't hesitate, don't think. Just shoot. His expression was grim. Promise me, Amara. If someone threatens you or Luca, you don't try to talk them down or negotiate. You shoot first and let me deal with the consequences. I promise. But the promised threat never materialized. Weeks turned into months with no sign of Russo. Dante's network of informants reported sightings in Argentina, then Russia, then Thailand. The man was running, staying ahead of the manhunt. He's scared, Marco reported during one of the weekly security briefings. He knows if we find him, he's dead. So he's staying mobile, staying hidden. He's also planning, Dante countered. Men like Russo don't just run. They regroup, recruit, plan their revenge. We need to find him before he finds his courage again. Life settled into a new normal. Amara continued managing Luca's medical care, which had become routine. Daily medication, regular checkups, no crises. She also started volunteering at a free clinic in one of Chicago's poorest neighborhoods, using her skills to help people who reminded her of herself 2 years ago. Dante supported her work but insisted on heavy security. The clinic director wasn't thrilled about armed guards in the waiting room, but Amara's skills were valuable enough that they accepted the conditions. She found purpose in the work, treating uninsured patients, connecting them with resources, advocating for better care. It felt like redemption for the medications she'd stolen, like she was balancing some cosmic scale. Luca thrived. His health remained stable, his energy boundless. He started calling Amara Mom exclusively, and her heart swelled every time. He looked like Dante but had his own personality emerging, curious, compassionate, with a wicked sense of humor that kept them all laughing. They became a family, real and imperfect and beautiful. But the threat still loomed, a shadow they couldn't quite escape. The call came on a Tuesday evening 8 months after the wedding. Dante was in his study. Amara was helping Luca with a science project, and the world felt almost normal. Then Marco burst in, his face pale. "Boss, we found him. Russo, he's in Chicago." Everything stopped. "Where?" Dante's voice was lethal. "Warehouse District, South Side. He's meeting with the Kozlov brothers, apparently trying to broker an alliance. My contact says they're discussing a hit." Marco's eyes flicked to Amara. "On your family." Dante stood, his entire demeanor shifting from father to predator. "How many men does he have?" "At least a dozen. Maybe more. The Kozlovs brought their own muscle." "Then we bring more." Dante was already moving, pulling weapons from the hidden safe. "Call everyone, full mobilization. I want Russo alive if possible, but dead works too." "Dante," Amara started. "Stay here, lock down the penthouse. Elena and Santos will stay with you and Luca. Don't open the door for anyone but me. Let me come with you." He spun to face her, his expression fierce. "Absolutely not. You stay here where it's safe." "Safe? He's planning a hit on us, Dante. Nowhere is safe. And I'm not letting you walk into a trap without—" "This is what I do, Amara. This is the part of my world you don't have to see. I'm your wife. Your partner. If you're going into danger, I'm going too. Someone might get hurt and you'll need medical support." "No." His tone left no room for argument. "I can't focus on ending this threat if I'm worried about protecting you. Please, amore mio. Stay here with our son. Let me do what I'm good at." The "our son" shattered her remaining objections. He was right. Luca needed her here. Safe. Alive. She couldn't help Dante by getting herself killed. "Come back to us," she whispered. "That's an order." Dante kissed her fiercely. "Always. I promise." Then he was gone, taking Marco and half the security team with him. The penthouse felt empty without him, too quiet. Luca sensed the tension, abandoning his science project to curl up against Amara on the couch. Is Papa going to fight the bad men? He's going to make sure they can't hurt us anymore. Will he be okay? Amara held him tighter. Your father is the strongest, smartest, most dangerous man I've ever met. He'll be fine. But inside, she wasn't sure. Men could die in situations like this. Even powerful, careful men like Dante. The waiting was agony. Elena and Santos maintained professional calm, but Amara could see the tension in their shoulders. She tried to distract herself by making dinner, helping Luca prepare for bed, maintaining routine. But every minute felt like an hour. Finally, at 11 p.m., her phone buzzed. It's done. Coming home. We need to talk. Relief and dread warred in her chest. He was alive. But something about that message felt ominous. Dante arrived an hour later, and Amara's stomach dropped at the sight of him. He was covered in blood. Not his own, she realized with strange relief. His suit was ruined, his knuckles split, his eyes haunted. Is he dead? Along with most of his men, the Kozlovs surrendered when they realized how outmatched they were. Dante's voice was hollow. It's over, Amara. The threat is gone. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt a chill looking at the man she loved covered in evidence of violence. You should shower. I'll get you some. I killed 6 men tonight. He said it flatly, matter-of-factly. Shot 4, broke another's neck, beat the last one to death with my bare hands. His eyes met hers, full of anguish. That's who I am, Amara. That's what I'm capable of when someone threatens my family. Can you still love me knowing that? Amara moved to him slowly, taking his bloody hands in hers. I loved you when you told me you'd killed before. I loved you when I saw the darkness in your world. And I love you now, standing here covered in blood from protecting our family. She met his eyes steadily. You did what you had to do. I'm not naive enough to condemn you for it. I'm a monster. You're my husband, Luca's father, a man who fought to keep us safe. She cupped his face. And I love you. All of you. The darkness and the light. Something in Dante's expression cracked. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly it almost hurt. I don't deserve you. We've established this. Yet here I am anyway. He laughed shakily. Here you are. They stood like that for a long time, 2 people clinging to each other in the aftermath of violence. Then Amara pulled back. Come on. Let's get you cleaned up. Our son will want to see you in the morning, and you can't let him see you like this. Our son. Dante smiled through the exhaustion. I love when you say that. Get used to it. You're stuck with me now, Moretti. Best decision I ever made. Amara stood in the clinic's exam room, reviewing charts while her assistant prepped the next patient. Her medical license had been fully reinstated 6 months ago. Dante had pulled strings, called in favors, made things happen that shouldn't have been possible. Now she worked 3 days a week at the free clinic and 2 days managing Luca's care. It was the perfect balance. Dr. Moretti? Her assistant poked her head in. Your husband is here. Amara looked up, surprised. Dante rarely came to the clinic. Too much security, too much attention. But there he was in the doorway, holding a bouquet of her favorite flowers and wearing an expression that made her heart skip. What are you doing here? Is Luca okay? Luca's fine. Perfect, actually. I just wanted to see my wife. He crossed to her, pressing a kiss to her temple. And to tell you something. This sounds serious. The Kozlov brothers made an offer. They want to absorb the Moretti operations. Let me transition into a purely advisory role. Legitimate business only. Consulting on security, logistics, nothing illegal. Amara's breath caught. Are you serious? Completely. It would mean a significant pay cut, but we'd be comfortable. More importantly, it would mean no more late-night calls, no more threats, no more blood on my hands. His eyes searched hers. I could be just a husband and father. Would that be enough for you? Dante, you never have to ask me that. You're already enough. But I want to be better. For you. For Luca. For this. He placed a hand on her still flat stomach, and Amara's eyes went wide. How did you? You've been tired, nauseous in the mornings, and you stopped drinking wine 3 weeks ago. I may not be a doctor, but I'm observant. He smiled. Are we having another baby, amore mio? Amara had planned to tell him differently, more romantically. But this was perfect in its imperfection. Yes. I found out yesterday. I'm 6 weeks along. Dante's face transformed with joy. He kissed her deeply, reverently, like she'd given him the greatest gift imaginable. Another chance, he whispered. Another life to protect and love and give everything to. Are you happy? Happier than I have any right to be. He rested his forehead against hers. 2 years ago, I was alone, except for Luca. Broken. Certain I'd never feel anything but rage and grief again. Then you walked into my life, and saved my son, and somehow decided I was worth loving despite everything. You gave me hope, Amara. You gave me a future. We gave each other that. She took his hands. So what do you say? Should the Moretti crime family retire? I think the Moretti family should focus on being exactly that. A family. No more crime. No more danger. Just us. Building something beautiful. Then let's do it. Let's build something beautiful. They kissed in the clinic exam room, surrounded by charts and medical supplies, planning a future neither of them had thought possible. Outside, Elena stood guard, making sure no one interrupted. Luca was at home with his tutor, healthy and thriving, and somewhere in Amara's womb, a new life was beginning. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Real life never was. There would still be challenges, complications, moments of doubt and fear. Dante's past would never fully disappear, and some enemies never forgot. But they had each other. They had love. They had hope. And sometimes that was enough to build a kingdom. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.